Could the 2030 time traveler's shocking predictions be real? Dive into bizarre accounts of those who claim to have seen our future. Noah claimed to have been an ordinary man living in the early 21st century until, as he tells it, he was recruited into a top-secret program. This initiative allegedly sent participants into future decades to gather critical information for present-day governments. By his account, he was chosen specifically because he was considered mentally adaptable and would be able to handle the psychological effects of jumping through time. When Noah emerged in the year 2030, he said he was overwhelmed by the massive technological advancements and the way society had evolved. He described AI systems that were far beyond anything we have today, not just assisting in daily tasks, but seamlessly integrated into every aspect of life. Entire neighborhoods, he claimed, were smart in a way that made our current technology feel ancient. Buildings interacted with people, cars drove themselves with perfect efficiency, and even the air was monitored and purified in real time by autonomous systems. But the most striking part of his story wasn't the technological marvels, it was the warnings he brought back. According to Noah, the 2030s were a turning point, a decade where humanity teetered on the brink of massive change. He spoke of global climate challenges that had reached a critical point, forcing governments and corporations to make radical shifts in policy. Food and water shortages in some regions, he said, prompted countries to form alliances they never would have considered before. On top of that, there were whispers of conflicts brewing, both on Earth and in orbit, as humanity pushed its boundaries into space. What made Noah's tale even more unnerving was his claim that he wasn't the only one. He suggested that multiple operatives had been sent forward and each returned with pieces of a larger puzzle. Some spoke of economic upheavals, others of scientific breakthroughs that would change medicine forever. But the underlying message was clear. Decisions made in the early 21st century would echo far into the future, and not all of those echoes were positive. Alexander Smith, an elderly man with a weathered face and an intense gaze, stepped forward claiming to have been a part of a clandestine government program. According to him, the CIA had secretly developed the ability to send operatives into future eras. As proof of his journey, he presented a faded photograph he said was taken in the year 2118. The image depicted a landscape he described as a hybrid of nature and technology, massive skyscrapers intertwined with vegetation, their glassy surfaces reflecting a deep green hue. But it wasn't just the image that captivated those who heard his tale. Smith described a society where humanity had adopted a curious balance between AI governance and ecological restoration. People, he claimed, lived longer and healthier lives, not because of magic cures, but because the understanding of human biology had reached astonishing new heights. He warned, however, that this future was not inevitable. The world of 2118 only emerged after humanity faced a series of catastrophic challenges, including extreme weather events, rising sea levels, and resource shortages. Smith's account was filled with such specificity that it sent ripples through conspiracy forums and drew both skeptics and curious believers. Was he truly an agent sent forward by the CIA, or was his story an elaborate fabrication? Regardless of the truth, his warnings lingered in the minds of those who heard them, leaving the audience to wonder, what will we truly face in the decades to come? When Edward first appeared, he carried with him an air of disbelief and a single blurred photograph. He claimed it showed a world he had seen with his own eyes, the Earth as it existed 5,000 years into the future. According to Edward, the planet as we know it had changed dramatically. Water covered nearly every inch of the surface. Cities once bustling with life now lay submerged under miles of ocean. Humanity, however, had not vanished. Instead, people had adapted. Floating megastructures and underwater cities became the new norm. Edward described breathtaking structures of glass and steel that gleamed under the sun as they drifted across endless blue horizons. Despite the beauty of this world, Edward's story was not one of triumph. He said the Earth's transformation was the result of centuries of environmental neglect, with rising temperatures and polar ice melt finally reaching a point of no return. In his view, the world of 5000 AD was both a testament to human resilience and a stark reminder of the cost of our inaction. Edward's blurred photo was his only physical evidence. It was just enough to plant the seed of curiosity and doubt. Could his story be true? Or was it simply a compelling narrative designed to make us consider the long-term effects of our choices? Regardless, his tale was hard to ignore, and it left audiences questioning the course humanity is on. It started out as a normal day for Hakan Nordfist, a Swedish plumber who was just trying to fix a leak under his sink. But when he crawled inside to inspect the pipes, he found himself looking at something he could barely comprehend, a glowing tunnel of light. In disbelief, he stepped into the mysterious opening, and on the other side, he encountered someone who would change his life forever. Standing there was an older man who bore an uncanny resemblance to him. As they talked, the stranger revealed details that Hakan thought only he could know: specific childhood memories, a scar from an old accident, and even their shared love of a particular family tradition. It became clear that this wasn't just a coincidence. This man wasn't a stranger at all. He was Hakan from several decades in the future. The two compared their arms and found identical tattoos in the same spot, something Hakan had only gotten recently and was sure no one else would have known about. Before they parted, Hakan took out his phone and filmed the encounter. Though the video was far from high definition, it showed two men, one younger, one older, laughing, talking, and standing side by side. The footage circulated online, sparking endless debates. Was it a clever hoax, a coincidence, or genuine evidence of time travel? Skeptics pointed out that such a thing should be impossible, yet Hakan stood by his story. He claimed he hadn't sought fame or money, he just wanted people to know what he had seen. To this day, his account raises more questions than answers. If he's telling the truth, it means that time may not flow in a straight line. Instead, it may twist and fold in ways we can't yet understand, allowing brief, extraordinary meetings between a person's present and future selves. Charlotte Ann Moberly and Eleanor Jourdain were well-respected academics. Not the kind of people you'd expect to come forward with a story so strange it would be dismissed by many as fantasy. But when they recounted what happened during their visit to the Palace of Versailles on a warm day in 1901, their tale became one of the most famous alleged time-slip events ever recorded. The two women had planned a quiet afternoon exploring the historic gardens, unaware that their outing would become something out of a dream, or a nightmare. As they strolled through the grounds, both women felt an inexplicable heaviness in the air. They described a strange stillness that seemed to cloak the area, muting the usual sounds of nature and human activity. The people around them weren't dressed in the clothing of 1901. Instead, they wore the fashions of the late 18th century. The women saw a man wearing a large hat and cloak, a woman sketching, and a group of others who seemed to glide rather than walk. The setting itself appeared different, too. Gardens that should have been modern and carefully maintained suddenly looked wild and untamed, as if untouched for centuries. The most startling moment came when they passed a figure whom they later identified as Marie Antoinette. The queen, according to their description, sat quietly sketching by herself, unaware of the two intruders from the future. It wasn't until Moberly and Jourdain left the area that the atmosphere seemed to return to normal, and they realized how bizarre their experience had been. The story of Billy Meyer begins in the picturesque hills of Switzerland, where this unassuming farmer claimed he had been contacted by extraterrestrial beings. Meyer's encounters weren't just fleeting glimpses of alien craft in the sky. According to him, these were direct meetings with beings from a distant star system known as the Plejaran. These extraterrestrials, he said, came not only to observe Earth, but also to share advanced knowledge and a stark warning about humanity's future. Over the course of decades, Meyer allegedly received visits from these beings and was given information about events yet to come. Among the most remarkable aspects of his story was his claim that the Plejaran took him aboard their craft and transported him to distant points in Earth's future. Meyer described witnessing a world profoundly altered by human mismanagement. He claimed to have seen devastating climate changes, conflicts over dwindling resources, and the emergence of technologies that would reshape our society, both for better and worse. To back up his experiences, Meyer provided what he called evidence. This included photographs of UFOs, detailed prophecies, and even the testimony of individuals who claimed to have seen strange lights and craft near his home. Some of his predictions, such as environmental disasters and advancements in genetic engineering, seemed eerily prescient. However, skeptics dismissed Meyer's accounts as elaborate hoaxes, pointing out inconsistencies in his photos and the sheer implausibility of his claims. If there's one time traveler whose name has become almost synonymous with the concept itself, it's John Titer. Unlike other alleged travelers who rely on secondhand stories or blurry photographs, Titer stepped directly into the public eye, or rather into the digital limelight. In November 2000, an individual claiming to be a time traveler from the year 2036 appeared on an internet forum. Going by the name John Titer, he quickly captured the imagination of a growing online audience. Titer wasn't vague about his supposed mission. He said he had been sent back to retrieve an IBM 5100 computer, a piece of vintage technology that, according to him, held the key to solving a problem in his timeline. This wasn't just any problem, though. Titer claimed that his world had experienced devastating upheavals, including a Second American Civil War and a global nuclear conflict. What made Titer's story particularly compelling was the level of detail he provided. He posted diagrams of his time machine, which he said was a device installed in a 1987 Chevrolet Suburban. He offered detailed explanations of how his machine bent space-time and used mini black holes to travel across timelines. On top of that, he answered countless questions from forum users, describing life in the future, societal changes, and technological advancements. Some of his predictions, such as a global conflict and widespread political unrest, seemed to align with real-world events that occurred after his posts. This led many to wonder if Titer truly had foreknowledge of our timeline's trajectory. Andrew Carlson's story surfaced in the early 2000s when an unidentified man appeared out of nowhere, dazzling financial markets with a streak of impeccable stock trades. Within a short time, Carlson reportedly turned an initial investment of just $800 into a staggering $350 million. His success caught the attention of the SEC and the FBI, who couldn't fathom how anyone could consistently predict stock movements with such precision. When interrogated, Carlson offered a simple explanation. He was from the year 2256. He claimed he had knowledge of events and market trends that had long since become part of history books in his time. His extraordinary claim made headlines, and reports suggested that he even offered to reveal key information about future technologies and medical breakthroughs in exchange for leniency. What made Carlson's case so compelling was the sheer detail he provided. He allegedly described future events, including global shifts in economic policies and technological advancements that seemed far beyond the reach of any insider knowledge. Despite the skepticism that surrounded his account, Carlson reportedly vanished before a trial could take place. No record of him existed before his arrest, and after his disappearance, no trace of him could be found. Was he truly a time traveler who slipped back into the future before facing modern justice? Or was he a con artist who fabricated an elaborate story to avoid prosecution? To this day, the truth remains elusive, and his story continues to spark debate among conspiracy theorists and time travel enthusiasts alike. Mad. Mike Markham's journey into the realm of time travel began with his fascination for magnetic fields and their potential to bend the fabric of reality. In the mid-1990s, Markham, a self-taught experimenter, built a device he called the Jacob's Ladder on the porch of his Missouri home. His goal was ambitious, to create a time machine using electromagnetic forces. According to Markham, his experiments began yielding strange results. Items placed in the device would vanish momentarily and reappear, often slightly altered. Intrigued by these results, he ramped up his efforts. He scavenged materials, including a surplus power transformer from a local utility company, and continued to refine his invention. Markham's story became public when he called into a popular radio show, describing his project and the strange effects it produced. He claimed that one day he intended to step into the device himself, not just to send objects into the unknown, but to travel through time. As his experiments became more ambitious, Markham reportedly disappeared. Some claimed he had perfected his machine and traveled to another time period, while others believed his reckless experimentation may have led to a fatal accident. What remains is the tantalizing possibility that he truly succeeded, vanishing into a different era and leaving only questions behind. Whether Mad Mike was a genuine time travel pioneer or a man consumed by a dangerous obsession, his tale continues to captivate those who wonder about the limits of human invention. Stuart Swerdlow's account of the Montalk Project is among the most infamous stories of government experiments involving time travel. According to Swerdlow, the Montalk Project took place at Camp Hero, a decommissioned military base on Long Island, New York. He He claimed that the US government and military, in collaboration with other organizations, conducted secret experiments in mind control, teleportation, and time travel. Swerdlow, who said he was a participant in these experiments as a young man, recounted how he was subjected to advanced technologies that sent him to various points in the past and future. These journeys, he claimed, were not voluntary. They were part of a highly classified program designed to test the limits of human endurance and the potential for manipulating time itself. In his testimonies, Swerdlow described vividly detailed experiences of visiting ancient civilizations, witnessing events centuries ahead, and even encountering extraterrestrial beings. He claimed that the project's ultimate goal was to control reality at its most fundamental level, by altering the flow of time. His accounts included tales of disappearing for weeks at a time, only to return seconds later by local time. Although his claims are highly controversial and unverified, they align with other rumors surrounding the Montalk Project, which has become a focal point for conspiracy theories. Swerdlow's story, filled with intrigue and mystery, leaves listeners wondering whether such a program could have existed, and if so, what other secrets remain locked in the shadows of history. Rudolph Fence's story reads like a plot ripped from a pulp science fiction magazine, yet it has been passed down as if it were an unexplained mystery. In June of 1950, a man wearing 19th century clothing was found wandering through New York City's Times Square, seemingly confused and disoriented. He reportedly looked out of place, not just because of his outdated attire, but also due to his startled reactions to the bustling city around him. Witnesses said he appeared frightened by the towering skyscrapers and honking automobiles, things he clearly had never encountered before. Tragically, this bewildered individual was struck and killed by a taxi before anyone could learn more about him. But the most peculiar details emerged when investigators went through his belongings. Fence carried items that, according to reports, had no explanation. He had coins and banknotes from the late 1800s in pristine condition, a business card bearing a name that matched New York directories from decades earlier, and documents that seemed to confirm he had disappeared without a trace in 1876. While skeptics argue that the story is nothing more than an urban legend, possibly originating from a mid-20th century short story, believers maintain that the strange case of Rudolph Fence offers evidence of a time slip. To this day, no definitive records have surfaced to prove the story's authenticity, yet the tale persists. Whether it's a cleverly constructed myth or a genuine anomaly, the name Rudolph Fence continues to be associated with the tantalizing question: is time travel possible, and if so, can someone truly get lost between eras? Al Bielek's accounts of time travel have become some of the most controversial and widely debated in the realm of fringe science and conspiracy theories. According to Bielek, he was involved in the infamous Philadelphia experiment, an alleged top-secret military project during World War II, designed to render ships invisible to enemy radar. What was supposed to be a straightforward test of electromagnetic stealth technology, Bielek claimed, instead opened a window to unimaginable phenomena. He recounted how the USS Eldridge, a Navy destroyer, not only became invisible but also was briefly teleported to a different location. In the process, Bielek and several other crew members were supposedly thrown into a vortex that transported them through both time and space. Bielek claimed that he found himself not just decades into the future, but centuries ahead, most notably in the year 2749. There, he described a radically transformed world. Floating cities suspended high above the Earth's surface, a society governed by advanced artificial intelligence, and a human population that had overcome many of the conflicts and divisions of the 20th and 21st centuries. Yet, this future was not without its own challenges. According to Bielek, humanity had learned harsh lessons from past mistakes, and the price of progress was often painful. Despite his vivid description, skeptics have dismissed Bielek's story as pure fabrication, pointing to inconsistencies and a lack of hard evidence. Nevertheless, his claims continue to intrigue those fascinated by time travel and the potential for secret government experiments. Was Al Bielek truly a man out of time, or simply a storyteller with a vivid imagination? For many, his tale remains an enduring enigma. Paul Amadeus Dinoch's story is unlike any other in the annals of alleged time travel. Dinoch, a Swiss-Austrian teacher in the early 20th century, never claimed to have built a time machine or encountered futuristic technology. Instead, his experience was deeply personal and unsettling. In 1921, Dinoch fell into a coma that lasted nearly a year. When he awoke, he began writing about what he had seen during those lost months. According to his detailed accounts, his consciousness had somehow traveled into the distant future, specifically to the 40th century. There, he lived within the body of a man named Andreas Northam and saw a world that bore little resemblance to the Earth he knew. Dinoch described a future that was both awe-inspiring and grim. The world's population had plummeted due to catastrophic events, and the remnants of humanity lived in a much smaller, tightly controlled global society. While technological and scientific advancements were extraordinary, he also recounted a spiritual and philosophical transformation. Humanity, he claimed, had learned to value wisdom and unity over material wealth and power. Yet Dinoch's vision was not all hopeful. He wrote of a world scarred by its history, wars, ecological collapse, and a long struggle for survival. His diary was later published and sparked considerable debate. Was this simply a vivid dream, the hallucinations of a comatose mind, or something more profound? Dinoch's writing reads like a warning, a glimpse into a potential future shaped by the choices of his time. Whether you view his account as prophecy, fantasy, or a deep subconscious journey, it's hard not to be captivated by the eerie, haunting world he claimed to have seen. Gil Perez was a soldier of the Spanish Empire stationed at the governor's palace in Manila, the Philippines, in 1593. One moment, he was standing guard outside the palace, watching the bustling streets, and the next, he found himself standing in the Plaza Meyer of Mexico City, more than 9,000 miles away, without any idea how he got there. He reportedly appeared dazed and disoriented, dressed in the uniform of the guards stationed in Manila, and claimed that he had no recollection of traveling there by ship or any conventional means. When questioned, Perez told officials that he had been on duty the previous night, guarding the palace following the assassination of the Governor-General of the Philippines. This event, he insisted, had just taken place when he suddenly found himself in Mexico City. What made his story even stranger was that, weeks later, news arrived confirming the assassination, something Perez could not have known if he had not truly been there at the time. The bizarre case of Gil Perez has never been fully explained. Some believe it's a legend, passed down and embellished over centuries. Others see it as a rare example of a time slip, a moment when the fabric of reality bends and deposits someone into a different place, or even a different time. That's about it. Do you believe in the possibility of time travel? Share your thoughts in the comments. For more useful information, watch other videos.